Just waiting for Charles here. Here we go.
Oh,
Hello, how are you?
very good, thank you. And you?
Good. Let me change the photos. So otherwise you'll be talking to yourself in the main photo. This one? Should we use this one?
Yeah, perfect.
Or we use this one?
As you prefer.
Okay, let's start with this one. I think it's nicer. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Okay, beautiful. Okay, so welcome everyone. It's great to be back on this live tasting with some of our favorite wine producers from Burgundy. And today we have Charles Ballot from Ballot in Meursault. Thank you, Charles, for joining us. We have prepared 4 wines to share with you today. But of course, like we did the series before the harvest, we love to hear from the producer about the history of the domain and also, of course, the vineyard holdings and any story that, Charles, you would like to tell us. So off to you, Charles.
Okay, thank you. So it's a pleasure to be here with you. It's a very good day, very different style of testing we have to do usually, but we need to do that more and more. Actually, I think. So welcome to everyone, and so the domain we start. My family starts the domain at the beginning of the 17th century. So the first vines was bought in 1640, something like that. So it's pretty old. It's the wedding of two different family generation to the generation, but two main family, which is Ballot and Dancer. Dancer Le Chardet was from my mother, and Ballot was from my father. So so we have some vines from Beaune to Chassagne, Chassagne-Montrachet, and the biggest production is in Meursault. So we have almost 7 hectares in Meursault, so in white, and 1.5 hectares in Chassagne, and about 2 hectares in Beaune, very small part in Beaune, Pommard and Volnay. We have a small production of negociant as well. We bought some grapes from the red and a little bit in Bourgogne Chardonnay. And small barrels of Chevalier Montrachet. So we make today we make 70% of white in Meursault Chassagne and the rest in red. So I take after my father, I take the domain in 2000. So 2000 was my first vintage. We changed almost everything. I worked in New Zealand, in California before I came back, and I learned many things, a little bit English, and different techniques, new techniques, and new a different style, and so it was very good for me. and after I came back in 2000, and we changed everything. All the vinification change. Is still changing a little bit, few things every year. We try to do better and better, of course, like everybody, I think. And so the white today we put in bottles after 18 months of vinification. So 12 months in barrels and 6 months in inox tanks. And for the red, we are changing a little bit. We put in bottles little bit earlier than before. Before it was 18, 20 months of élevage, and today we try to put in bottles in November, so 14 months after the harvest. It's a little bit better to keep the freshness and the fruit, and for the style of red, we want to have like a Volnay style and bone and pommard like a Charmeau. We want to keep the freshness and the nice fruit. But today we talk mostly about the white, because we have four white for tasting, 2 different vintage, 16 and 17. So we have really 2 different vintage, different appellations.
Let's talk about the vintage later. Let's go back to you for a minute. Someone asked me earlier. So you are one of the you are very young, but then you started quite young. Mm-hmm. So you've been working at the domain for 20 years, right? So it's 2 decades is quite a long time. So when you arrive, you change a lot. And then you have, of course, some younger friends who are now joining their parents in the last few years, in the last 10 years. Do you also see yourself changing as a result, or you're keeping more or less in the last 20 years what you have done?
I changed everything because my father was in the domain, still in the domain. He stopped definitely 10 years ago, and it just helped me for the office, all the paper, everything. But he gave me some a few things of vinification. But I wanted to change everything. He tell me it was with his before, and he tell me I don't want the same thing with my son. So you make as you want, and we will see what's happened. But it was very nice for me. So the first 10 years was you say it's I had to try to find my style. I had an idea for the white, and I check what they do for what the other domain made, and the style I liked, and I take few things like this, and after a few years I find my style with a good reduction, because at the beginning it was quite very high, so many people said it's good, it's a big reduction, but maybe too high. So now I think I am in the good way for me. It's still many things to do always, but I had the chance with my father. He gave me the domain completely very fast. So I was very young. I was almost 20 years old. So it was very young. Yeah, it was a very good. It was a chance, because many domains today work with the father, sometimes the grandfather. So when the connection is good, it's okay. But sometimes it's going to be complicated. All the generation in the same cellar, it's going to be complicated.
Mm-hmm. And what would you say you changed the most? Is it the vineyard side, or is it more in the cellar?
We change many things in the vineyard, but the most change we change mostly in the cellar. The vineyard is we still have very big job to do, big work to do in the vineyard with the climate today, with the warm summer we have today. So we have many things to do. We are thinking about different things and different way to take. But yeah, in the cellar we change many things. I mean, we change whole the first vinification, the press, all the techniques for the reception of the grapes, and we change mostly the élevage was the most important. Before with my father, we had to put in bottles just before the next harvest. And now we just take the time. So it's a natural fermentation, no yeast, no enzyme, just a natural fermentation in the natural temperature of the cellar. The wine make itself, so we just take the time to finish the vinification. So now it's we have two different élevage, one in barrels, one in tanks. And this is the quiet moment in tanks, actually. So yeah, we change many things in the cellar.
Okay, there's a question already. Someone is asking, how did you decrease the reduction? You mentioned that the wines were quite reduced before, and now it's less reduced.
Because the reduction is coming in mostly in barrels. Then in tanks, we lose some reduction last few years because the barrels was a little bit more new, not really, but we still have 10-20% of new oak, between 10 and 20, but we lose a little bit the reduction because the oldest barrels is maybe 5-6 years old, and then before it was a little bit older, and we will have a small, very small aeration at the first racking to take off a little bit of reduction. We still have the reduction, but sometimes it was very high. It's coming from the press as well. Because before we had a whole press called Vasselin, and we take it was the biggest changement. We had a lot of lees, and we don't take the lees. We don't take off the lees during the harvest when we put in barrels after the press. So we had a lot of lees. With this kind of press, and now we have only 7 liters, 5 to 7 liters of finest lees. So we don't take off. We keep whole, and we will.
Okay. Why don't we start the first bottle, the Meursault 17?
Yeah.
I have a question before I open. Have you tried Coravin with the wax capsule or not?
Not yet. I'm
not sure whether it will break the needle.
I don't know.
Is it a softer wax or is it a hard wax?
Soft. Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Okay. I'll be your guinea pig.
Normally, you can just put the screw pull directly, so maybe it works.
The screw pull, huh?
Yeah.
The screw pull works because that you pull through, but I'm just wondering the wax capsule. Oh, it's very soft.
Yeah. Normally, it's green.
Very easy. So 17, Meursault. How many different parts of Meursault is this coming from? How many parcels?
So we have different parcels in the other side of Meursault, village of Meursault. We have les Corbins, les Peu de Vigne, on the Volnay side, between Meursault and Volnay. We have les Pelles, on the Puligny side. We have Chaume de Narvaux. So it's a small part. It's about 10% of the cuvée. Part of Le Clos, just the domain.
Okay.
The biggest area in this cuvée is Les Corbins. So it's very nice soil with a lot of minerality in the soil. We have
How big is Corbin?
Sorry.
In this, what's the percentage of the Corbin in this cuvée? Like a third?
It's 50% of the.
And on average, how old are the vines in these lieux-dits?
It's 40 years old. 40. We have two in 17. We had two different plants in Les Corbins, so it's 55 years old, and we have a small part which is new. It's 5 years old, but it's very small parcels, and les Pelles Peu de Vigne, it's pretty old as well. It's 40 between 35 to 45 years old.
Okay.
Chaume de Narvaux, it's 20 years old.
So would you say there's more, there's good representation from all around Meursault, or is it more heavy on the Volnay side for this village?
It's not really heavy for in the Volnay side. It's a little bit heavy, more heavy in les Peu de Vigne, which is a small part of the cuvée as well. But les Corbins, it's a little bit. It's a red soil, a little bit, but we have many rocks. It's a lot of limestone deeper in the soil. Les Pelles, it's more. We have more clay. It's a deeper soil, and it's more heavy in the Puligny side, in Les Pelles, for us.
Okay. So what about the oak treatment? You mentioned 10 or 20, 15% of new oak. Is that across all the cuvées, including this one?
Yeah, it's in village. We don't put too much new oak. It's 10 to 20. 20. It's more in the premier cru, like Charme, Genévrière, Perrière, and 25, 30 sometimes in Chassagne, because Chassagne Meursault it's biggest cuvée in premier cru. No, usually we put 10 to 20. It's that's a house. We don't want to put too much, and we work with very fine wood with a medium toast at low temperature. So now we can test the new barrel. It's not too heavy, too strong. Doesn't smell too much the oak than we had before. Now we try to put some new oak every year, of course, but very soft.
Okay. 17 has good acidity. You can feel that the wine is very sharp, but not aggressive. It still has a lot of fruit to it. Is this a type of vintage that you like?
Yeah, definitely. It's a very nice vintage. The quality of the grapes was just amazing. Premier cru, I think I never saw that before in Perrière, in Genévrière. The quality, and Narvaux as well. The quality of the grapes it was just all the same grapes, very small berries, and this Perrier was almost like a caviar, very, very small berries and very very homogeneous, and the lees was very nice, very fine and very, very elegant, and very very beautiful style. 17. It was. We had a very good summer. We had very nice maturity, very, very good balance for all the cuvée. It wasn't a very big production for us, but it was quite very regular everywhere, and it was just amazing of quality. And it, 1 year, 1 year and a half after the bottling, so 17 is going to be very good to test actually. The reduction is coming back a little bit, mostly in Meursault les Criots, actually, okay. But in the village as well is coming back, and it's very good balance. It's definitely a vintage for aging.
And would you say, I mean, it's always nice to have some aged wines to drink, but for a wine like this, would you start recommending people to drink it now at the village level, or you still ask people to wait?
Yeah, it's always good to wait 2-3 years. It's better. 2 or 3 years, it's always better. Yeah. For the Premier Cru, 10 years, it's still, the wine is still very, very young. Many people don't like very old wine actually, because yeah, many people drink very early the wine actually. But we make wine for drink now, to keep it. That's the most difficult deal to do actually. But it's better to wait 2 or 3 years. The wine must be more open, and in the village, or you just put in carafe and we don't make aeration during the vinification. So when we open the bottles, you need aeration and to be open. Yeah.
So decanting is one way to help it express itself a little bit more. Now let's move on to the next wine, the Boucher. 17.
Yeah.
Again with the wax capsule. This is the first year you're using your wax capsule. Yeah. Why did you decide to change to these wax capsule?
But we wanted to change after a tasting of 2013, 2 years ago. In January, we had I don't remember 8 bottles of Genévrière 13, and I saw many differences between all the bottles. Not of evolution or something like that, but it was always a little bit different. One was closed, one was more open, and different style. And when you see the corks, you saw directly the difference and what's happened in the bottles. And so I wanted to put some wax to have something more regular, and it's a very soft wax to keep the good evolution of the wine. Close definitely the wine, but just for take off the bad thing of the corks.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about this Premier Cru, Boucher. Which part of Boucher are you located?
We are just very close to Le Clos des Bouchers, just on the right side of Le Clos des Bouchers. When you see, when you look the hide, and It's a very nice parcels, but it's very, very small parcels. We have 4 ouvriers, so we make usually three barrels of Boucher, only 900 bottles. So it's very small premier cru for it. It's smaller. It's very nice parcels, very early in maturity. We have to pick it very early. That's very important because the acidity is going down very quickly. It's a warm situation. We have many trees, many rock around the parcels, and it's always very hot. We don't have a lot of wind. Situation is very hot, and during the summer, the maturity is going very, very fast compared to the rest of the domain. So usually we picked in the first parcels.
Okay. And how old are the vines here?
It's about 55 years old.
55. Okay.
Yeah, fully old. But it's still good. It's still alive, and we have quite a regular production. It's nice, it's good grapes, not big production, but it's always the quality is very, very regular. But it's richer wine than the other appellation. We still have a good maturity, a good minerality in this wine, but less than the other. We feel less
Right.
than.
So you mentioned this vineyard gets a bit warmer is it because the elevation is lower?
No.
It's just the exposure.
Yeah, the exposure and the situation. The parcel is very close with the rock, with Meursault, and with the trees. So the parcel is a little bit close. So it's for that it's a little bit warmer. But it's higher, just up higher than Meursault, or a little bit higher, right? Just a little bit, but a little bit higher than Goutte d'Or. So the situation is not. It's like a Narvaux. Narvaux higher, but now it's Narvaux. It's colder situation because we have more wind and different situation. And the situation of Boucher, it's the situation in the Isle. In fact, it's very close parcels. It's for that it's always warmer.
And the treatment of this wine, the Boucher, is the same as all the other Meursault?
Yeah. Yeah.
Including the village?
Yeah. Yeah. For all the cuvée, it's the same vinification, except Bourgogne Blanc, we will put usually 2 months before in bottles, but for the rest, it's all the same vinification.
Okay. And how about the bottling? This is also after 18 months?
Yeah.
Some people like to do it over the second winter, right? So I guess you also do the same.
Yes, many people just before the winter or at the beginning of the spring. Yeah, usually I put in January, February. I finish in March with the bottling. It depends if the wine is ready or not. Usually in January, the wine is ready.
Right. And 17 was an early harvest, right?
Yeah. We start the 2nd of September.
Yeah. So did you also bottle in like January, February, or okay? So you still have that period of aging.
We don't change a lot. We put in barrels and we We rack the wine the first time just after the next harvest, and we let in tanks. We try to let in tanks for minimum 4 months. That's very important for the wine to be very quiet and very. This is a very big moment for the wine. Very important.
Okay. So there we are with the two 17s. Now we move on to 16. Should we taste the Charme first or the Genevière? Charme?
Yeah. Charme.
Okay. Did you change the cork in 17 from 16 to 17 or use the same cork?
We use the same. We use the same, except in the Meursault. We changed it, but it was a mistake. So we don't want to change anymore. No, in the white, we work mostly with the Trescas. But you know, it's a natural thing. Sometimes it's better than the other year. No, we don't change it.
So 16, a very different animal, very different vintage. Can you tell us a little bit more about 2016 vintage?
Yeah, the particularity of the vintage is the spring of this vintage. So we had a very bad spring. It was very early, so the vines was going very early in 16. But we had a very terrific frost at the beginning of the spring, and we never saw that before. My father said me, I never saw that before. It was just amazing. The frost was going almost at the middle of the premier cru in Meursault. So yeah, it was terrific. All the appellation in Meursault was frost. So in Meursault village, we made only 13 barrels of Meursault compared to the normal year we make 60 barrels. So it's
wow.
It was very, very low production, except in premier cru, Meursault Charme, Genevière, Perrière was very good.
No frost.
No frost. No frost. The frost stopped at the middle of Meursault Genevière du Bas. Boucher was frost. It's very strange because it's a warm area, but we had some. I don't know why it was frost, and maybe with the trees we had more humidity, and in the rest when we have some wind, we don't have really some risk of frost. But in 16 in this area we didn't have some wind, so it's for that we had some. But the whole cuvée was very good, and in village, in Meursault Criot, in Bourgogne Blanc, we had very, very, very small récolte vintage in quantity, with the grapes from the second generation. All the premier cru was correct in volume. But it's a very different style. It looks like a very cold vintage. We have a very straight wine, very elegant, very pure, just very fresh and very fine wine. I like this vintage for the style of the Premier Cru, not for the rest. It was very good, but it was later vintage. The frost of the spring put the harvest very late, at 20 of September. So it was later than 17. Yeah.
So it still achieves the ripeness that you want in the vineyards that did not get frost.
Yes, it was for where we didn't have some frost, it was good. It was good, and maybe more classic vintage, maybe with a later harvest, more normal vintage, but
But in terms of acidity, I feel like it's a bit lower than the Boucher 17. Is that the case?
No, lower.
It's the same.
Yeah, it's the acidity is a little bit higher
in
than
16.
Yeah, in 16. Yeah.
Ah, okay. So it's the fruit profile that changed the style of the wine.
In fact,
because I feel, just now I feel like, oh, the Charme is a bit rounder because it's a Charme, but also I thought 16 would be also a rounder wine.
Yes, but many people think that. But 16, it's for me, it's very fresh and very intense. 16, we have the maturity of Charme was going very fast at the end. At the end of the maturity, so we picked the grapes a little bit earlier in Meursault Charme.
Yes.
Because it was going very fast. We had some storm at the end of September and the middle of September, and so the maturity was going very fast. But Meursault Charme, this parcel is just in the corner of Charme, very close to Puligny side, and in fact, Charme it's very big. It's a very big parcel in Meursault. It's the biggest parcel in Premier Cru in Meursault. And so we have very different situation from the bottom to the middle to the top of Meursault Charme. And this parcel it's only 40 centimeters of clay, and after we have a lot of limestone. So many rock in the soil, and we have a very big minerality. It's for that we think something about the acidity, but in fact the minerality is still there, and the balance is completely different than Boucher.
And sorry, I forgot. Are you in the upper part or the lower part for the Charme?
Up part. Yeah.
Great. Okay, last but not least, Genévrière, one of my favorite.
Yeah.
I had an opportunity to taste your 2013 Genévrière a few months ago, and it was, for me, 13 is one of the more underrated vintages. Now I begin to like it, even though the fruit is a little bit leaner, but I like the style of 13. But anyway, today we're on 16.
Yeah.
Genévrière. So tell us about your Genévrière, the age of the vines and the location, please.
The Genévrière, it's maybe the most famous appellation in Meursault. I always say, maybe it's wrong, but it's a blending of all the terroir in Meursault. It's not representative of the appellation. It's very nice concentration. It's very, sometimes it's close. Usually it's close when it's young. It's for that we have to keep it for 5-10 years better. But the concentration, the complexity of Genevière is just amazing after a few years. It's very important to keep it. Genevière, it's from the top. It's long parcels, half an hectares in Genevière, and it's the oldest parcel of the domain. It's 85 years old. So
oh, wow.
we try to keep it. It's still a very good parcels. The production is still correct, so we try to keep it like this. So it's very. The complexity is we really see the complexity with the grapes, the style of the grapes. It's very nice process, and the soil. It's just amazing to see the complexity of the soil. When you cut the soil, you see the different style of limestone, of clay, of in the same parcels. The difference of the soil is just amazing.
Genevière always gives me the feeling that it has a very good finesse. It's finer than Charme. It's richer than Boucher, and sometimes I just find it to be head-to-head with Perrier. Of course, Perrier is very famous, but Genevière gives me a lot of nice feeling, because the texture is always so good. Perrier, it's that very stony type of profile, but Genevière gives me a little bit more. It's not as wide as a Charme, but then it's got just the right balance. So I in fact, this is for me. I prefer your Genevière to your Perrier, if you don't mind me saying. But it's just an amazing cuvée.
Thank you. I have exactly the same definition between Genevière and Perrier. Sometimes I prefer Perrier when it's young, mostly when it's young. After a few years, it will be really different. Genevière, it's more complex, larger. We have very good richness. Perrier, it's more open, yet it's very straight and very long in the mouth, little bit more fruity, big power, but Genevière it's very smart, you know. It's very elegant and very concentrated and very fine and we have very big complexity in Genevière. Many people we prefer maybe Perrier because it's Perrier, but I think if you don't see the label, many people will prefer Genevière.
Yeah, I can't agree more. I can't agree more. So I'm just wondering if anyone has any questions. If you have questions, feel free to ask. But one of the questions that I received earlier was, which cuvée do you like the best? But I think you just mentioned it already, so we don't need to repeat that question. But I think we should also mention a little bit about the reds. How many reds do you make, and how would you rate your preference of your reds?
So we make different cuvées: Volnay-Centenot, Volnay-Taillepied. Taillepied is in negociation. Pommard Charmeau, Pommard La Refène, a very small cuvée of Pommard Village. It's 2 barrels, so it's almost nothing. One cuvée of Bonnet-Penot, and Pommard Pézerolles we bought in grapes as well. We buy in grapes as well, and that's it for the red. We make a little bit less than 30% of red. It's 20% red. I like the style of Volnay-Centenot in general. I try to not to focus in Centenot because all are very important, but it's the biggest parcels for the domain, and in the Meursault area. It's a particular parcels because it's very feminine style. The wine is always very fresh, very elegant, very fruity. It's quite complicated to make Volnay-Centenot because the maturity is going very very fast, and this and you have to take care of the date of the harvest. If we want to keep the freshness of the juice. I try to make very fresh red. I stopped definitely the pigeage. We make we distemps almost everything, not a whole. We keep a small part of stems in Pommard Charmeau, for example, in Pommard Pézerolles, to get some freshness and some some freshness and vivacity, and we make only remontage, and the maceration is at cold temperature. I mean 26 to 28 degrees maximum. Is going between 2 weeks to 3 weeks. It depends of the vintage. That's very important to keep the freshness, and I like the Pinot with a very soft tannin, a good balance. Volnay, it's very very elegant. It must stay very elegant. It must be like this. That's very important. I like this style of Pinot. You drink very easy, and it's just easy to drink the bottles.
Nice, very good. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's a pleasure to see you. Too bad. Normally, I should be tasting with you in your cellar, but unfortunately, this year is making our traveling very challenging. But of course, I hope to be back in Meursault at your domain sometime soon. Hopefully, in the spring. We'll see what happens. But in the meantime, I'm going to bring these 4 bottles and have dinner with my friends who are looking forward to tasting these lovely wines that you presented today.
Perfect.
So thank you, Charles.
Thank you.
All the best, and we'll be in touch by email or something.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
Thank you. See you.
All right. Okay. See you, Charles. Thank you.
Bye.
See you. Bye.